Facts. Hey everyone, Henriello here, welcome back. Today we are going to watch Rope, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. And after this movie reaction, the next 3 movie reactions will also be Hitchcock movies. So look forward to that. And for this particular movie, there's something interesting about it. So listen up. This movie takes place in real time. So what does that mean? It means that the events portrayed in the movie occur at the same rate as real time. So it feels as if we are actually sitting here and watching it happen as it happens. Awesome. The movie is based on the 1929 play of the same name by Patrick Hamilton, and the play was inspired by the real life murder of 14-year-old Bobby Franks in 1924. So there's going to be a story that we get to read after the movie reaction. Great. The poster says, "Nothing ever held you like Alfred Hitchcock's rope." Well, as long as it doesn't hold me by the neck, then yeah, that would be fine. Okay, let's jump right in and watch Rope. Let's jump Rope. I think this was also Alfred Hitchcock's first movie in like Technicolor, like in color or something. Oh, a rope around the neck. Strangled him. He looks like he didn't even have a chance to struggle. Okay, the movie starts with the murder right away.
Don't. Let's stay this way for a minute.
It's the darkness that's got you down. There, that's much better. Pity we couldn't have done it with the curtains open and the bright sunlight. Out of this, David Kentley had his last drink.
David Kentley.
Davids of this world merely occupy space, which is why he was the perfect victim for the perfect murder. In less than 8 hours, he'll be resting firmly at the bottom of a lake.
Meanwhile, he's here. It's not locked.
All the better. It's much more dangerous.
I wish we had him out of here. I wish it was somebody else.
Trifle late for that, don't you think?
Suppose anyone was as good or as bad as any other?
What do you mean they didn't have a reason for killing him?
This is an occasion. It calls for champagne. You know I'd never do anything unless I did it perfectly. Do you realize we've actually done it exactly as we planned?
Why do I get the feeling they killed just for the fun of it?
That's the difference between us and the ordinary man, Philip. Nobody commits a murder just for the experiment of committing it.
Okay. Not sure if they're both like sociopaths or psychopaths. Killing for the sake of killing.
I felt tremendously exhilarated.
Brandon, you don't think the party's a mistake, do you?
No, the party's the inspired finishing touch to our work. The Kentleys couldn't be duller if they tried.
Oh my god.
They are David's mother and father.
They're having a party with the murdered's family?
What the devil are you doing?
Making our work of art a masterpiece. It'd be nice to have supper in here.
Wow. He wants to feel the rush of almost being caught but not being caught.
How are you going to explain this to him? I'm not. We've got to have some excuse.
We have a very simple excuse right here.
Oh, the rope is hanging out.
Oh, Mr. Kentley's coming mainly to look at these books. What could be better than to have them laid out neatly on the dining room table where the poor old man can easily get at them?
Brandon. Brandon!
Seems Philip is still a little bit jittery.
A stupid display like that in front of somebody else will be just as good as a confession. We agreed there was only one crime either of us could commit. The crime of making a mistake.
Because it's being human?
Because it's being ordinary.
If it weren't for the traffic, I'd have been here a half hour ago.
Oh, it's just as well. We didn't expect you back until now.
What, may I ask, is happening to my table?
We're just moving the things in here.
Well, I think it looks downright peculiar.
Peculiar?
Very.
It's a coffin.
What's to be done with the books?
Oh, we'll lay them out on the dining room table.
A crazy idea, if you ask me.
What on earth's the matter?
I was sure she'd notice.
Notice what?
The rope, of course. And we've got to hide it.
Why? It's only a piece of rope, Philip. An ordinary household article. Why hide it?
And no one knows any better. He's getting a rush out of this, isn't he?
Rupert's coming?
Well, yes, I thought I told you.
Oh, I must say I did enjoy
No,
working for Mr.
you
Caddell.
didn't.
Such a gentleman.
Brandon, of all the people on this earth, Rupert Caddell is the one man most likely to suspect.
He's the one man who might appreciate this from our angle, the artistic one. I once thought of inviting him to join us. Intellectually, he could have come along. He's brilliant, but he never could have acted. That's where we're superior, Philip. We have courage. Rupert doesn't. Now the fun begins.
These are two crazy characters, especially Brandon.
Hello, Kenneth. Good to see you. You too.
Kenneth.
Been up to much lately? Oh, nothing to speak of.
Mrs. Wilson, champagne.
It isn't someone's birthday, is it?
It's really almost the opposite.
Death Day.
The party's also for Mr. Kentley.
David's father? Yes. David going to be here?
Of course.
He's already here.
The Kentleys, Janet Walker.
Janet.
Yes.
Janet and I are all washed up. Didn't you know?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't. I have the oddest feeling anyway that your chances with the young lady are much better than you think.
What do you mean? You look lovely.
I won't by the time it's all paid for. Is that funny?
Crazy thing is they also act like normal people. And you wouldn't know they just killed someone less than an hour ago.
How have you been, Ken?
Fine, thanks. How's the new job? What are you doing?
Well, writing that same dreary column on how to keep the body beautiful. I could really strangle you, Brandon.
What have I done now?
Why did you invite Kenneth? We called it quits ages ago, and I'm practically engaged to his best friend.
It is a little difficult trying to keep up with your romances. Why the switch from Kenneth to David anyway?
I think he's nicer.
Well, he's certainly richer.
Who is he?
Rupert Caddell. He was our housemaster at prep school.
He thinks murder is a crime for most men, but
A privilege for the few.
yes.
He glances at David when he said that.
Mrs. Kentley isn't well, so I took the liberty of bringing my sister-in-law, Mrs. Atwood.
David!
Oh, no. This is, you've made a mistake. This is Kenneth Lawrence.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh my god. Whoa, he's bleeding. He's too nervous.
Janet, my dear, I finished working out your horoscope just before we came. They indicated marriage very soon for a tall, fair-haired young man.
The stars are wrong.
Is David here?
I expected him to come with you.
He called and said that he'd meet us here. He was at the club studying for his examinations.
The trouble with David is he doesn't have to study. He's too bright. I am, thank you.
What a charming young man. I wish David saw more of him.
Yes.
David ain't gonna see much of anything or anyone.
I thought you'd like to take it into her. She's in the bedroom telephoning.
Then you'd like David to walk in.
Oh, no, that'd be too much of a shock.
You don't remember the hour of your birth by any chance?
No.
Don't tell anybody the hour of your birth. It's too dangerous.
These hands will bring you great fame.
The hands you killed David with. I read that this entire movie was taken in 4 long shots. So they have very little room to make mistakes in their script. Which is quite impressive, really.
I was beginning to think you weren't going to show.
You know me better than that. Oh, Miss Walker.
How'd you know?
Brandon's spoken of you.
Did he do me justice?
Do you deserve justice? Well, very good champagne, too. What's the occasion?
Well, I thought I'd make it sort of a farewell for Philip.
Therefore, champagne.
Yes.
You always did stutter when you were excited.
Well, I guess I'm always excited when I give a party.
Really?
I got that special patty you like.
I don't like it anymore. Oh, no. Just teasing.
Oh, you're awful.
Thank you. Exactly what is this?
Cassone I got in Italy.
No, I mean, why are we eating off it?
Oh, I've turned the dining room into a library.
The mistletoe bough. That was always your favorite tale, wasn't it? It was about a lovely young girl.
She was a bride-to-be, and on her wedding day, she playfully hid herself in a chest. 50 years later, they found her skeleton.
Hit herself in the chest. There's a body hidden in a chest now.
What is it called now? The something of the something. No, this was just plain something.
Right on the tip of my tongue.
Mine too. It was just plain something.
Just something.
I saw Mary Pickford.
What did you see her in?
The something. Or was it just plain something?
I'm not sure if he's making fun of her. I think he's making fun of her.
What about you?
I don't eat it.
How queer. I never heard of anyone who didn't eat chicken.
He's too nervous to eat it.
There's no reason, Janet.
As I remember, Philip, you have a very funny reason.
It happened about 3 years ago in Connecticut. We were going to have chicken, so we walked over to the farm. The church bells were ringing. Philip was doing likewise to the necks of 2 or 3 chickens.
Oh, dear.
Wringing the necks.
That's a lie.
Philip,
I
just because
never strangled a chicken, and you know it.
in another moment, you might have been strangling each other instead of a chicken. I think a chicken is as good a reason for murder as a blonde, a mattress full of dollar bills. Think of the problems it would solve. Unemployment, poverty.
I must say I've had a perfectly dreadful time getting tickets for that new musical. What's it called?
The something.
Careful application of the trigger finger and a pair of seats in the first row is yours for the shooting.
Oh, it's no laughing matter if he actually does that.
But then we'd all be murdering each other.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no. The privilege of committing it should be reserved for those few superior individuals.
And the victims, inferior beings whose lives are unimportant anyway.
Obviously.
What if you are one of those inferior beings? You wouldn't feel the same way.
I would prefer to have cut a throat week,
Oh.
strangulation day.
Is this where the Purge movie came from? I mean, I've never watched The Purge, but I know what it's about.
Who is to decide that a human being is inferior and is therefore a suitable victim for murder?
Good question.
And just who might they be?
Exactly.
Those men of such intellectual and cultural superiority that they're above the traditional moral concepts.
Then obviously you agree with Nietzsche and his theory of the Superman.
Yes, I do.
So did Hitler.
Hitler was a paranoid savage. I'd hang them first for being stupid.
Please, Brandon, I think we've had just about enough.
I'm afraid I let myself get carried away.
Oh, that's quite all right, my boy.
Aren't planning to do away with a few inferiors by any chance.
I'm a creature of whim. Who knows?
I see.
Why don't you switch on the radio or play some records?
He's such a sly little devil, isn't he?
Much more than you think.
He thinks I threw you over because David has a bigger bank account. You threw me over, Chum, remember? My, wouldn't friend Brandon love to know that?
Oh, so he dumped her.
You and David used to be such good friends, and you're not now. It's my fault. I relaxed with David, thanks to you. When you called it quits, David took me for a walk. I just relaxed and let everything pour out. The real me stuff.
Brandon made a crack when I got here. He sort of implied I'd have a better chance with you again because David would be out of the running.
Wait, he pretended to be completely ignorant when I told him. He
What's
said...
going on here anyway?
I'd like to know why you had the gall to tell Kenneth he wouldn't have to worry very much longer about David and me. I don't believe David's coming.
Wait and see.
I don't have to. I think you deliberately arranged it so that he wouldn't come. No, you'd have to add something that appealed to your warped sense of humor.
He added a lot more than that.
Something
Yep.
gone wrong, Brandon?
No.
Rupert suspects something.
What did you mean? Something gone wrong?
Well, you always plan your party so well, it's odd to have anything go wrong.
You can tell when they're transitioning into the next shot.
They've been in a state all day.
Brandon says he's always in a state when he gives a party.
It's the first time I've seen it. Brandon was in the maddest rush for me to clean up and get the table set. Then when I was whisking out to do the shopping, he suddenly told me to take the whole afternoon for it. The whole afternoon. After that mad rush in the morning, I had to clear all those books off the dining room table and put them back in the chest, which is where they were in the first place.
Why did you serve from here, anyway?
It wasn't my idea.
This way, people don't have to go all the way into the dining room to get their food and come all the way back here to eat it.
They've gone all the way in there now for their dessert and coffee.
Who is Mrs. Wilson to them? Their housemaid?
What's going on, Philip?
Would you mind turning that off?
I get quite intrigued when people don't answer questions. I'm quite curious.
If you want to know something, come out with it. Otherwise...
Oh, no, temper. Where's David, Philip?
I don't know.
Brandon knows.
Does he?
Doesn't he?
Not that I know.
Oh, come now.
I don't.
What is Brandon trying to do with Janet and Kenneth? What, am I so far off the track?
There's nothing going on at all, Rupert.
Yep, he's far off the track. So he feels relief and he laughs.
You're quite a good chicken strangler, as I recall.
Oh.
I didn't think it was a suitable topic of conversation while we were eating.
We're not eating now, Philip. What'd you lie to me for?
I know you appreciate first editions far more than I, Mr. Kentley.
Can't believe he used that rope to tie the books.
What's wrong now, David?
Don't you want Mr. Kentley to have the books? I just think it's a clumsy way of tying them up, that's all.
Oh.
I know, but I cannot...
That gives Rupert a clue. To someone like Rupert who's very good at deducting, deduction, then I think Philip's behavior really makes him display clues that are too obvious for Rupert.
Yes, there's something upsetting both of you a great deal. Something that
Excuse me, sir.
David, I remember, was very polite as well as very punctual. If he's not at home, where could he be?
Oh, is she gonna put the books inside the chest? Yeah, clearly Mrs. Wilson is gonna put the books inside the chest.
You didn't speak to David at all today.
No. Why do you ask?
Oh, they sure know how to drag this scene out, making us wait and expect it.
I'll help you with that, Miss.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Cadell.
That's all right, Mrs. Wilson. Just let the books go for now.
Well,
She thinks he may have had an accident. She wants you to call the police.
Oh, no, Anita. I don't think that's necessary.
Your books.
Oh, yes.
Would you call me as soon as you hear from David?
Be glad to.
Now they've gotten rid of the murder weapon.
Kenneth, why don't you come along with us?
Oh, I don't...
Please.
What did I predict? Good night.
Goodbye.
Thanks once more.
that's not yours.
I'm very sorry we had to.
Oh, that's David Kentley's. His hat is here.
You going too?
Yes. I help you with those books, Mr. Kentley? Thanks.
I think Rupert has already pieced up all the clues, so he knows he needs to get out of there. Because there's two dangerous men in this room right now.
Good night, good night. It's been charming. He gave the party the very touch I predicted.
The touch of what? You were busy in there arranging that other little touch of yours.
What touch?
Tying up the books that way.
Oh, I thought that was wonderful. Didn't you like it?
No, Brandon, I didn't like it. One bit. Have you ever bothered for just 1 minute to understand how someone else might feel? Nothing matters. Except that Mr. Brandon liked the party. Scared to death, Brandon. I think we're going to get caught.
Oh, there's not a chance. Oh, there was, I suppose, but not anymore. Well, we're...
How do you plan to transfer the body to the car?
Yes, right away. Thank you.
They're gonna roll it up in a carpet?
Better draw the curtains.
Brandon, couldn't we pretend we're not home?
With all these lights on, answer it, Philip.
Probably Rupert. Oh no, it's the phone. That was the doorbell.
Brandon, it's Rupert.
What?
He wants to come up. Says he left a cigarette case here.
Let him come.
But you know he's lying. He's caught on. He didn't leave
Shut
any...
up and get back to that phone.
I mean, it's fine to not answer the phone even if your apartment's lights on, because the guy on the phone can't see it anyway.
Rupert, come on up. Have another drink if you must, but get hold of yourself and keep your mouth shut.
Worst case, they probably have to kill Rupert.
It's not loaded, is it?
It is. I knew it. If they get found out, they will probably kill Rupert.
Unlike me to forget it, isn't it? I suppose a psychoanalyst would say that I didn't really forget it at all. I unconsciously left it because I wanted to come back.
That won't work. They just put the books there. They'll know that he snuck it there.
I was there. I was just going to open the chest for Mrs. Wilson when you came over, Brandon. Here it is, right where I left it. Gentlemen, I beg your pardon. I'm very sorry. It's very pleasant to sit here with good drink and good company.
I'm glad.
They're just standing around him like that.
Well, I'll be off. As soon as I finish my drink. I always hate to leave a party, especially when the evening has been unusually stimulating or strange.
What do you mean, strange?
Did I say strange, Brandon?
You often pick words for sound rather than meaning.
For sound rather than meaning. Strange sounds like strangle. Ah, his eyes glancing at David.
Could have been run over or held up.
In broad daylight.
Yes, it must have been broad daylight when it happened. I couldn't help overhearing Janet. She thinks you kidnapped David or did something to prevent him from coming.
Suppose you or I, how would you get David out of the way?
Half of him wants Rupert to find out, but he'd probably kill Rupert afterwards.
At the appointed time, David would arrive, and then he'd sit down.
Yes?
As I recall, David was quite strong, so I'd move quietly around behind the chair and hit him on the head with something.
Then where would you put him?
The ultimate question.
The two of us would put him into the car.
You'd be seen.
What? I'd have to find some place to hide the body until dark.
Where, Rupert?
Yes, where?
Cat and mouse, cat and mouse.
Philip.
Which is the cat and which is the mouse?
That's enough of that.
No, I thought Philip broke down. Not yet. He's pretty close though.
I don't think for a moment that you kidnapped David. If it weren't that you seemed to be carrying fear of discovery in your pocket.
Here, you can relax. I have to take it up to the country. There have been several burglaries, and Mother's a bit on edge. Did you hear what Rupert said about the gun? He thought...
Imagine if that was Rupert's ploy to get Philip to get rid of the gun, because then that's very smart. Oh, he got the rope.
You were right, Philip. Those books were tied clumsily.
He knows. He knows. This is what you wanted, isn't it? Somebody else to know. I told you he'd find out. But oh no, you had to have him here. And now we're done for. Now I don't know.
Philip basically confessed at this point. Whoa.
Stupid, babbling drunk. Philip's drunk, Rupert. Surely you don't take those nightmare ideas of his seriously.
Brandon, I'm going to look inside that chest.
Are you crazy?
I hope so. With all my heart, I hope I'm crazy.
Rupert,
to look inside that chest.
All right. I hope you like what you see.
Don't turn your back on him, Rupert. Wait, Rupert's hand is bleeding?
Let me explain.
Explain? Do you think you can explain that?
Yeah, how do you explain murder?
We've always said, you and I, moral concepts of good and evil don't hold for the intellectually superior. Remember, Rupert?
Some theories should remain as theories. And as I've heard throughout the movie, David was actually pretty smart.
You were right, too. If nothing else, a man should stand by his words. But you've given my words a meaning that I never dreamed of. You've tried to twist them into a cold, logical excuse for your ugly murder. There must have been something deep inside you that let you do this thing. But there's always been something deep inside me that would never let me do it.
Facts. I love those changing lights in the background. That was a nice touch.
By what right did you dare decide that that boy in there was inferior and therefore could be killed?
Exactly.
Did you think you were God, Brandon?
Judge, jury, and executioner.
You've murdered! You've strangled the life out of a fellow human being who could live and love as you never could and never will again.
What are you doing?
Oh yeah, that's a quick way to get help. Damn, I'm getting goosebumps. Rupert's speech. There are facts. But Brandon still looks seemingly very calm. As if it has nothing to do with him. Damn. Bro, this entire scene, man. Ooh. The entire movie builds up all for that last 10 minutes of that scene. The whole movie was just a building up for that particular scene to happen. And it was worth it. Theory and action, these are drastically different things. Some people could say a lot of things, but it would never translate into action. Of course, when I say that without context, people will think, oh, it means that like I want to be rich, I want to get my work done, I want to be successful, but I never take action to become like that. But in this movie, it looks at it in a negative light. Like some people would say about inferior beings, superior beings, like murder should be justified and all that. Now Rupert would not have brought these theories into reality because he knew that deep down it was the wrong thing to do. He would debate about it, he would speak about it, but he would never translate it into action. But Brandon, on the other hand, he took it seriously and he made it happen. Just as an experiment for the exhilaration, just, to feel superior. And that shows that Brandon is sick. He's a self-centered, egotistic, and has no regard for human life. The arguments they made within this movie was very valid too. How do you determine who is superior and how do you determine who is inferior? Now, based on Brandon's logic, the superior beings are people who have more intelligence, they're smarter. But at the same time, we know that David is also a very smart person. So Brandon is like being a hypocrite to his own theory. If he really thinks that superior beings should be the ones who are smarter, then he shouldn't have killed David. He should have killed someone dumber, right? So I think that all this thing that Brandon's spewing out and saying all this,
Men of such intellectual and cultural superiority that they're above the traditional moral concepts.
I think that's all just full of bullcrap. He just wants to kill someone to get the feel, and that's it. It doesn't matter whether that person's smarter than him, dumber than him, or whatever. He just wanted to commit murder. And I have no idea why Philip joined him in doing that. But I'm quite sure that the main idea came from Brandon himself. So it goes to show you that, you know, two different people can be talking about the same points, agreeing on the same things, but deep down, things could be so different because one could actually turn those ideas into reality and another knew that it would be wrong to turn those ideas into reality. So it isn't a difference of intellect or wisdom or logic or whatever. It's a difference of moral compass, morality. Rupert knew that it was not right to do such a thing, but Brandon, he didn't have that at all. So what I'm trying to say is Rupert has a conscience, Brandon does not. And I believe having a moral compass and having a conscience is what makes a human human. And that is what this movie tells me. You don't just have intelligence, you've got to also have conscience and a moral compass. Alright, now let's check out the real-life murder of 14-year-old Bobby Franks in 1924 by Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. Not sure if I'm pronouncing the name right, but yeah. So I've got this article right here, Leopold and Loeb's Criminal Minds. In defense of murderers Leopold and Loeb, attorney Clarence Darrow thwarted a nation's call for vengeance. This is a fairly long article, by the way. I'm gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna edit it so you don't have to read the whole thing with me. Nathan Leopold is the one on the left, and his lover, okay, they were both in a relationship, and his lover Richard Loeb is on the right. They kidnapped and murdered Bobby Franks solely for the thrill of the experience. That is mad. Loeb started talking about his idea to carry out the perfect crime. So the main idea came from Loeb. I'm just gonna say Loeb from now on, it's so much easier to pronounce. Loeb. Yeah, Loeb. Okay. This would not be the first time they did something like this because they had committed burglaries, they had set fires, they committed arson, but none of their deeds had been reported in the newspapers. So Loeb wanted to commit a crime that would set all of Chicago talking. So in this case, Loeb actually also wants the infamy, you could say, and he thought about kidnapping and murdering a child. I think during the movie, Rupert did mention about him suspecting that they might have kidnapped David, so I think that might have been like a reference to the actual case. Okay, this entire part right here is basically their history of how they met, where they studied and stuff like that, so I won't bore you with that. Loeb had a tedious obsession with the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche. By the way, this is definitely Loeb. I think they put the wrong name there, but based on what I've read, this is definitely Loeb, not Leopold. Loeb would talk endlessly about this mythical Superman who stood outside the law and beyond any moral code. So even murder was acceptable if the deed gave him pleasure. Morality did not apply in such a case. It's a very dangerous philosophy. This was the foolproof plan, so-called foolproof, that Leopold and Loeb came up with. So they decided, okay, they're gonna ask for a $10,000 ransom, and after that, they would direct the victim's father to throw a packet containing the money from a train. As soon as the ransom hit the ground, they'd scoop up the ransom and make their escape. On May 1924, they drove their car around the streets of the south side of Chicago looking for a possible victim. Loeb saw his cousin Bobby Franks walking south on the opposite side of the road. Bobby Franks was actually Loeb's cousin. Bro, you kidnapped your own cousin and murdered him. Man, it's so dangerous to be a relative to people like this. Loeb knew that Bobby's father was a wealthy businessman who should be able to pay the ransom. So they drove to Bobby and then basically opened the front door and said, "Hello Bob, I'll give you a ride." Here's the thing though, because your parents always tell you not to take ride from strangers, but in this case, Loeb is Bobby's cousin. So what, we can't even trust our own cousins and relatives now? Oh, okay, Bobby actually said no because he was almost home. Take note, Bobby's actually 14 years old at this time. He's not an adult yet, he's still a teenager. So he was almost home, so he said, "No, I can walk." But eventually, Loeb managed to persuade Bobby to get into the car into the front seat. The next part here is going to be a little bit violent. Loeb reached over the seat, he grabbed the boy from behind, and he covered his mouth to stop Bobby from crying out. They had prepared a chisel as a weapon, so he brought the chisel down hard onto the back of Bobby's skull. So he pounded the chisel into the skull with as much force as possible, and the whole time Bobby was still conscious, and he had to smash the chisel down many times as Bobby struggled for his life. Blood from the wound was everywhere, spreading across the seat. It splashed into Leopold's trousers, spilled onto the floor, and eventually Loeb pulled Bobby into the back seat, jammed a rag down his throat, then he put a large tape to tape the mouth shut. They thought they had committed the perfect crime, but when they disposed of the body, a pair of eyeglasses fell from Leopold's jacket onto the ground. The following day, a passerby spotted the body and notified the police. The Franks family confirmed Bobby's body. The police traced the Leopold's glasses back to him, and they went on trial. Only 10 days after the murder, both boys confessed to the murder of Bobby Franks. Leopold and Loeb were 19 and 18 years old respectively at the time. There's a very long explanation about the whole process and how their attorney, Darrow, was trying to prevent them from getting the death penalty because a lot of people wanted them hanged. But the long story short, in the end, they were sentenced to 99 years for the kidnapping and life in prison for the murder. What happened to them after they were sentenced to prison? Now this part is pretty short, so don't worry, it won't take long. In 1936, another prisoner stabbed Loeb in the shower room, and well, Loeb, which was then 30 years old, died of his wounds in prison. Leopold, on the other hand, served 33 years in prison until he was paroled in 1958. Upon his release, Leopold moved to Puerto Rico. In 1961, he got married. He died of a heart attack at the age of 66 in 1971. So that was the true story of Leopold and Loeb. Now, what did you think of the movie? Let me know in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.